So we're just going to do a Q&A. I have a few questions for them, and then we'll open it up to you guys if you have any questions as well. And then afterwards, we'll be treated to a performance. Yeah. That's going to be great. So, are you hearing that feedback?
I'm hearing that feedback.
Okay. I'll try and be very quiet. I want to know, how did this even start for you guys? Like, where was the genesis of this project? Where did it begin for you?
Okay, well, it started in a funny way. You know, Jacob and I were in my house, and I had just left Capitol, which we will call fired, and Jacob had just finished a tour with the Wallflowers at the Union Record, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do next. And you know, sometimes I think you have to look at where you come from to figure out where to go next. And that moment for us was really when Model Shop came on randomly on the TV. And you know, we're not filmmakers, so we were seeing LA at a time in '67 and '68, you know, when there were no Uber drivers and there were no Lyft drivers and there was nobody looking at their phone, texting, not knowing where they were going, and it just was beautiful and innocent. And so it sent us, as I said in the film, to go and explore the music of the time, because that's the stuff that we, you know, respond to. And we went back to the records, to the beginning of what was the bedrock of all of that music, you know, the songs of the Beach Boys and the Mamas and Papas and the Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds. And so we started to look at those songs, and then when we looked at the songs, we realized the songs had a story, and that the story was involving the people that made them. And we said, maybe we should not just do this as research, but maybe we should do this as a film. Now, we're not filmmakers, and we did not want to make this film. We went to real filmmakers, like the documentary accomplished filmmakers, and we asked them to do it. And one guy said, well, that's never going to be in a theater.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, that guy. And then the next guy said to me, well, I like it. Yeah, it's a good idea. If I have $2 million, I could do that. And I was like, okay, great, $2 million. I don't have $2 million. So we went to the record company. We were putting this record out, and the guy from the record company, you know, said, why don't you do it? And I said, well, he's an idiot. But he's like an idiot savant, because we made it, and it happened. Anyway, that's the beginning for us.
So then, like, what came first then? Did you have the seed of an idea of the story and the trajectory of the film, or did you have specific songs that you really wanted to kind of dive into and find out about how those were created? Like, what came first, maybe the music or the story of the film, or is it hard to separate the two?
Well, it really started as the songs, and we had an idea that it was the 50th anniversary of the Byrds' first record. Mm-hmm. So we had this idea of LA, This Innocent Time, and it's the Byrds' first record. So we thought, the story is, we'll go and we'll investigate and talk to people about the migration of people from New York to LA and the electrification of folk music. That's the story. That's not the story. What we found out, what documentary filmmakers told us later, is that you think you have the story, and then the story finds you. And we realized that what was more interesting was what happened when people got here. And it was really about the echo of their creativity and their ideas going back and forth between them. Because in the beginning, it's the Byrds are supposed to be the American Beatles, and they have the mushroom haircuts, and they have the velvet collars, and the suits and everything. And when they have a hit, everyone comes to California. Mamas and Papas, Buffalo Springfield, and it changes. Of course, the Beach Boys change after they hear that Byrds record. And so it was about multiple singers and multiple songwriters, and it was about the echo of their creativity in those bands, and then across the street to other bands at this innocent time when they were changing ideas, and then ultimately across to England, where they changed in the course of the Beatles. So that was the story.
Yeah, I found that really fascinating, how one band would interview or would influence the next, and then an album they would hear would really influence the next album. I thought that was fascinating. So Jacob, as far as the music goes in the band, like, who are these guys that you're playing with and women? Like, how did you all connect, and did you connect and create this band for this film, or have you played together in the past?
You're talking about the house band, the Echo
Yes.
and the Canyon band?
Yeah.
Here they are.
Yeah.
They are working as quick as they can to set this stage up so we can play for you. So that's the rumbling you hear behind us. Who are they? Well, this is a Los Angeles project, and these are musicians and friends of ours from Los Angeles. And because, well, one, because they're great, and two, because the record, the movie, it takes a while. So being local and being around, being
Creating it takes a while. Recording, you
exactly.
mean?
Well,
Okay.
both of it, all of it does. We would work sometimes, we'd take a few months off, and so it had to be. We work, a lot of times now you make a record, you do it like in a week or 2 weeks. This took a little while, and the filming did, and so these are all friends of ours in our town, Los Angeles, that we're allowed to be around and give us freedom to explore the time needed to make a movie.
Okay.
But the songs become really the tentpole of the film.
Sure.
Because the story is really inside each of these songs that we covered. The defining moment, I think, one of the defining moments for the Mamas and Papas is Go Where You Want to Go. That's their first single in 1965. And as we found out in the film, John and Michelle had a different idea about the boundaries of their relationship. And that sort of creates tension there. And with the Byrds, the sort of moment where David's relationship with Roger McGuinn is fractured is when he decides he wants to have a song that's a menage a trois on the radio in 1967, which we know which we knew was not going to happen, and they do Going Back, and then for the Springfield, Expecting to Fly becomes that moment where Steven says he realizes that Neil was going to go forge his own path, and he wasn't even allowed in the studio. For us, I think the film is framed by Expecting to Fly. That's a song that really represents, I think, the end of a relationship and the end of the innocence of Laurel Canyon. It's so much like the 60s, even in its title, which is that no matter how outlandish people's dreams were in the 60s, they thought they could come true. And we know that kind of boundless optimism never lasts. So for us, we wanted to use that song as the end of the era. There are 3 distinct eras in Laurel Canyon for us. There's the one we're talking about, where the bands come here, and they all see that dream in A Hard Day's Night, and they want to be in a band, and they want to be like the Beatles, multiple singers and multiple songwriters. And then the second phase is the psychedelic phase, and then the third phase really is the singer-songwriter, as Beck says in the end.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything, I imagine both of you with your careers and the lives you've led have probably met some of these people that are in the film in the past. Was there anything that happened in any of the interviews with these people that really surprised you, or you learned something new that you hadn't expected, and maybe that changed the course of the film?
Well, they actually, because making a documentary, there really isn't a script. So you just start with an idea. You think you're making one thing, but it becomes another thing, depending on the interviews that you do and what you're hearing. So they kind of led. And we did think it was originally, it was going to be a movie about folk music in New York City, being electrified and coming to California. Which is why we began talking to John Sebastian a bunch, because John was brilliant and he had a lot to do with that. But as the interviews kind of came in, the story changed to where it seems like our story might be in Laurel Canyon with the exchange of ideas with all these artists. But the other part of your question, was I surprised by anything? Not at all, because I would have liked to have been surprised even more, because these people are all firecrackers, and they got. We didn't pitch a lot of questions to them directly. We wanted to let them go and remember what they chose to remember. And these are all like amazing people, and it's amazing that they remember this time so well. So I was not,
Very
because it was a
impressive.
long time ago,
Right.
50 years ago. But no, I wasn't that surprised. Are you kidding? I mean, the stories these people have, I mean, I'd like to talk even more to them because they have the best stories.
Yeah, I bet. Before I open it up to the audience, I just need to address the Tom Petty footage. I mean, that really, wasn't that, I mean, it just feels precious now. You know, that was his last film interview, was it not? So, I don't even know what my question is. Just like, did you guys feel well, you didn't know. I don't know. How would you know?
No, you know what?
Just
It
felt
was
so
already
special.
extremely poignant to me anyhow. Of all the people in that film, I actually don't know any of those people growing up. There's a misconception that I grew up with the people like in the house, like the monkeys or something, and it was just everybody's coming, going. It's not like that at all. I know a lot of these people as an adult, as a musician. I've traveled and I've seen the road with them, and I've worked with some of them. And Tom is actually the only one that I actually did know as a teenager.
That you did know.
I did know, and he was important to have for his perspective as a fan of that music as a teenager. We needed him in his point of view because he was so enthused by that music. But I'm sorry to say that, yeah, it becomes more poignant because he passed, but I already thought it was incredibly powerful and moving to me anyway, because, you know, he was a hero of mine, and he was a teacher of mine. So I was glad to have him sit, and he was so damn funny.
Yeah.
And I wish we could have put everything he said in that movie. And maybe we'll get a chance at some point to share all the hysterical things he said. Not just funny, but wise, you know. So I know looking at it on screen, it seems even more poignant, more powerful, but I already thought it was anyhow. Because alive, he was Tom Petty. He was still the shit when he was right here with us.
Wow, that's very cool. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, there you go. You can let her rip. Okay, we'll start with you. You're right here.
Okay, I noticed that
I'll repeat it so you guys can hear.
Jackson Brown was in there a lot. You were talking to him, but isn't he after the 60s? I thought